Have you experienced the awesome power of the Panasonic Real 3DO system? Obviously.
Presenting 3DO, the most advanced home gaming system in the universe. It's time to put away your toys.
3DO from Panasonic, Gold Star, and Creative Labs. A new low price and free games.
Mind-blowing graphics of Panasonic Real 3DO.
3DO.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 3DO Experience, the 3DO retrospective podcast where we talk about all things 3DO, the company, the console, and everything in between. I am Bill, and this is Threk. How you doing, Threk?
Oh, I'm hanging in there, Bill. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Witnessed a big car accident today. That happens to me a lot, as I've said in podcasts in the past. But we actually do have a guest for this episode. We have the one and only Quest 64 official. How you doing, man?
Hey. Hi. Hello.
We got him on a podcast where its main topic he doesn't know anything about. So this is great.
Well, he knows enough about what we're covering in this episode, so.
Yeah, but, you know, he doesn't know what a 3DO is.
I've seen one time.
That's more than some people can say.
See, it's the thing when you look up the 5th generation of gaming and then you see the main 3 and then you see that add like plus more sign down at the bottom. You click on that and then it's like, oh, there was more stuff. Yeah.
I remember it from my childhood, like seeing it in video game magazines, but even Saturn was weird. I lived out in the country, so I had one friend that had PlayStation, I had N64, and we did the same thing. I had Sega and he had Super Nintendo. So if it wasn't one of the systems that we had, it just wasn't in my ecosystem. It didn't exist. So
like
That's
you would
fair.
go over there to play his console, he would come over to play yours, that kind of thing.
yeah, and we would trade off occasionally. Like that's how I ended up playing Gran Turismo for the first time and deciding I really liked that. Was I traded? He took the N64 and all the games, and I took PlayStation, all his games, and we traded off, and it was fun. It was a good time having, you know, when you have one dependable person who won't steal all your stuff or ruin it or treat it poorly. Yeah.
Back in the day when like you could actually do that. Nowadays it's
Yeah.
like you'll lend a game and you'll never see it again.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens.
It happened once to me and never again.
I don't think I've ever lent. No, I've lent games to people, yeah, and then they would like be completely damaged and trashed, and I would be very upset.
My original
And they
copy-
never got it, you know? Like, I remember once it was like a New Year's party or whatever, and I brought over my GameCube so we could do like Smash Brothers and whatever, and I just left it there for like a day or two, and I came back and it was just like somehow my copy of Smash Melee that I had as a kid, like the case was missing. Like they somehow lost the fucking case. So, but the disc was still in the system, so I had to buy like a separate case because I tried to get them to pay for it, but they got really flaky. It was just awful. So, fuck
See,
those guys.
my worst experience with that was I lent someone my original copy of Tales of the Abyss. And when I asked for it back, they told me, oh yeah, we traded in at GameStop. And I just looked him in the face like, what?
Did you punch him?
No, but we were no longer friends after that.
I mean, it's one of your favorite games, right?
It's my second favorite game of all time. At the time,
Yeah.
it was my favorite game of all time.
Well,
So-
and speaking of Tales, I've put a little bit of time into Vesperia.
Nice.
So, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm having a good time with it. I'm at that. I forget what the town is called, but it's the one where you go and you're like, I'm looking for Mordio, and they're like, well, why the fuck do you want to talk to that guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So still not super far in there, but you know, I'm getting there.
You played any of the Tales games, Mike? Or
No.
no?
Oh wait, Symphonia. Wait,
Oh,
that's on GameCube. Yeah, Tales of
Yeah,
Symphonia.
that's the GameCube one. Yeah,
I have played that.
What'd you
it's
think
pretty
of
good.
it? Or-
It was good. I mean, I vividly remember it as one of the few games that had 2 discs, so I always had to make sure that if I have a younger brother and if he was playing games, and he's good with games, but he's also good at like putting games in the wrong case. So, you know, one disc is missing and then you have no idea where it is. And then he goes to a friend's house and takes a big pile of games with him with discs like, you know, I don't know what you call that, like sunny side up. Like you take a game and then you put another game on top of it.
Oh,
And,
yeah, yep.
Like
yeah.
This
like
you
like
just-
do you ever go to people's houses and they just have like all their like PS2 games on like a little CD spindle,
Mhm.
you know? And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I can't look you in the eye.
you guys are just
Yeah.
describing things that Alex used to do back in the day, and I'm always
Ugh.
like, the thing that always drove me nuts is when I'd see someone grab the disc and they grabbed it right on the fucking edge, like the reading edge, and I was like, why do you do this?
Or seeing some people learn that the GameCube like had the little where you put the disc in
Oh, the
center, had
ejector
the little-
button.
where it says push here, and some people are like, oh, you just push the thing. It's like, yeah, what'd you do, rip them out? And they'd be like, yeah, just rip the thing out.
Yeah,
Most
just like with
people-
the SNES. Never used the eject, they just grabbed it harder.
yeah.
It's
Who needs
awful.
who needs the fucking toaster button? You just have to just manhandle it out of there.
Yeah.
It is very weird. Apparently, I learned this, that like if you turn the power switch on the SNES, you can't pull the cartridge out.
Oh,
It
yeah.
like locks it in place.
Mhm.
So
And if
it's,
you
a good
want to
way,
make
it's
it,
a good way to fuck with somebody. You know, if you're like, hey, I can't get this game out.
see, but you'll get that one person who's fucking like a gorilla and will just fucking destroy the fucking system.
It's just
They'll be
crazy
like-
how there are just some people who do not give a shit.
Oh
At
no,
all.
it's
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, I'm
convinced that
blessed
was
my-
actually Nintendo's whole idea with the N64. They wanted to make it so it was like seamless, like in and out, but then it just kind of made them kind of finicky.
Yeah, I never was comfortable with how an N64 game sat in the console. It was never it felt like it was just kind of on the edge of losing its mind, you know.
Well,
Like-
that's why in GoldenEye you could fucking tilt the cartridge and make it fucking weird shit happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
But
those are
that's-
all features, not bugs. And not
We'll never get Quest to say anything bad about the N64.
or a lot of video game systems for that matter.
I mean,
Even
the N64
universally bad ones.
I don't know what that is. Quest is supposed to be the worst game ever. So I mean, obviously,
Says who?
I know. It
Says
says
fucking who?
The bad video game library or whatever. There's a whole website that just does the worst games of all time, and he said it was
it's not
one
even
of the worst.
the
ever.
worst. It's not even the worst RPG on N64.
Exactly.
I'd play Quest before I played the Aegean Chronicles or whatever that fucking game is.
Yeah,
At least Quest has charm. That game's boring as fuck.
See, you need to show me this website, this bad video game library.
I'll send you
site.
the link. He actually then we actually had correspondence after that, and he's like, "Yeah, that was kind of back when that was when I was in my my kind of angry era." He's like, I think I need to go back and redo Quest 64 now, and it's probably not as bad as I said it was." And I'm like, hey, I really appreciate that, but I'm gonna screen cap this. So
There's a lot
it
of
always-
games.
What always weirded me out about Quest 64 was like when I was doing my little bit of N64 game collecting, and it was just like that name I thought was just so like strange, and then the cover I was just like, I don't know about this. It looks so generic, you know, but kind of like in like a charming way, you know what I mean? Like I still
Yeah.
haven't sat down and played the N64 version. I
You know
played the
what the
Game Boy
thing-
Color version for a show that didn't let me talk about it, but you know, that's neither here nor
oh
there.
man, I was part of
Yeah.
that show. It was terrible.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what the thing about the Quest 64 box art that like kind of throws me off is? It has nothing to do with the art. It's that old THQ logo. Just anytime I see that on something, I'm always like, it's just weird. Like to look at it.
It radiates THQ energy.
And that was part of the problem is the box arts are also different for each region because there was 3 different publishers. So
Hmm.
like Imagineer is like, no, we wanted to look anime, and Konami's like, no, look at this. And they made like somewhere in between for Holy Magic Century. It was cartoony, but not, you know, busy over the top. And then THQ's like, nope, 1998 3D renders. This is what we're doing. And they did.
That was the hot shit at the time. I
That
guess.
was the style. Yep, they wore.
Hmm. I do like the
Rampage
Japanese
World Tour
cover
on
art.
their
It looks
belts.
better.
Yeah, it does. It's way better.
Yeah.
And it's a better name. But
Oh,
That is such a weird
Holy
thing,
Magic
though.
Century. See, that's an intriguing name. Like, what does that mean?
that's the PAL one. That's Altail Monsters is the Japanese one, which is even better yet. So.
Yeah.
but probably too close to Pokemon and stuff like that at the time. So
Yeah. Hard to compete.
Yeah, I do like the Game Boy Color demake though. I've always kind of had a soft spot
Yeah.
for that one.
Yeah, that's the one I played. I thought I thought it was perfectly fine. I didn't love it, but I was like, not a bad game.
those are the best games. They're the perfectly acceptable games that you don't feel compelled to play 40 and 50 times because what if you missed one thing and it's the best game of all time and you're missing this one little thing, and but not so bad that you have to go on the internet and talk about it.
Yeah.
Uh, any other gaming news happened recently? Or
Well, something did happen. Yeah, in the dead of the night last night, while some other stuff was going on, Nintendo has confirmed. This is Furukawa. He is confirming that the Nintendo Switch successor will be backwards compatible. So I'll read the tweet verbatim if you please. This is Furukawa. At today's corporate management policy briefing, we announced that Nintendo Switch software will also be playable on the successor to Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch Online will be available on the successor to Nintendo Switch as well. Further information about the successor to Nintendo Switch, including its compatibility with Nintendo Switch, will be announced at a later date. So it is backwards compatible, but they're throwing in a little caveats, which has me a little concerned.
Yeah, they
What do you
didn't
guys
mention the physical carts at all, just that the software is compatible.
Yeah. Is it are they going to do a weird thing where it's like all your digital games will carry over, but your physicals won't?
That's what I'm terrified of, because I'm like 2 digital games minus things that are digital like exclusive, and then I have like a couple hundred physical Switch games. So.
Yeah,
So-
I have some digital Switch stuff, but it's all just kind of small indie titles. Like if
Yeah.
I ever go out of my way to get a physical Switch game, it's a first party one, like the Paper Mario remake or like Pikmin 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
So they have to, I feel like they have to do something for that, or they have to try to account for that. That's like, oh, if you have this physical thing, like, I don't know what they're going to do. It's probably we can't have a new Nintendo console without them doing something weird and stupid for no reason, right? So this might be, instead of it being like a weird gimmick with how the controls are, the gimmick's going to be like, oh, it's backwards compatible with all your digital games, but with your physical games, there's going to be some weird caveat.
I hope it's like the 3DS where they have the cartridges are slightly different, but it can work on both.
Yes, bring the Ridge back.
Yeah.
I would love if they're the exact same. Like they're white like the 3DS, and they just have the little ridge, and that's it. I mean, we might finally get those 64 gig Switch carts that we heard about. Like, what was it, in 2019 when they said that 64 gig were going to go into production, but I don't think they ever did because no company was going to use them because they were too expensive.
Yeah. I mean, even if they did do, maybe they could do a digital licensing thing where if you have your, because you get the gold and silver points for registering your physical games, like you pop them in.
Yep.
So
yeah,
maybe
if
you have a physical game and you did that, maybe that would allow you a digital license for,
maybe
a digital copy.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they would do with that. Genuinely, I don't know.
I'm hoping it's not what we're thinking, because
I hope I'm reading into it way too much, and it's just them being weird with the language, because they don't, because you can tell, like, with how close we are to the holiday season, they don't want to talk about it yet. Because I mean, it's clear that they're probably going to announce it sometime January, February, maybe February time, because that's when they usually do their directs. So it'll probably be a case of they'll get through this holiday season, they'll get a couple more Switches out the door, and then maybe just kind of cleaning out stock. And then when we hit January, February time, that's when we're going to get the big, like, here's what it is, and here's all of its features. And then we'll talk about it then. So, see, I was thinking they would have done it around October time, around the September Direct time. But considering they don't have a lot of software going into the holiday season, and the stuff that has come out hasn't been received as well as past years. So, I don't know. What do you think, Quest?
Maybe they just have a bone to pick and want to make sure that they're the top selling system over PlayStation before they go, and move on to the next system. Like,
I
oh,
don't
we'll just
know.
sell out all the Legend of Zelda stuff that they just made, the gold light and the other OLED one. They're like, oh, now we passed them.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think they're gonna cross PS2. I don't
Yeah,
see it. It depends on how long they do cross gen for, I think. Because right now they're at, I think, 146. And I could see them either stalling here or like maxing out at 150, and then that's it. So it'll be a comfy number 3. Like, I don't even think it'll cross DS.
Well, the gap
So.
between DS and PS2 is like this close, depending on who you ask. Some people claim the PS2 sold more than it did.
Well, when Jim Ryan left, he said the PS2 sold 160.
Yeah.
He just kind of threw that out there. We don't know how true that is. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised because I think they did stop reporting numbers.
They did. It is considered an estimate right now.
So. Yeah, because the PS2 eventually, like, it got released in all of like the other territories, like South America and Africa and other Asian countries that people don't normally associate with gaming sales, and that's how it was able to get even higher than it did.
Yeah, and any sort of additional price drop on the original Switch, I mean, if they're still selling them retail, like, think about when they did the new 3DS and the new 2DS XL, and we're still selling 3DSs like at full retail, and people were still buying them because your kids are like, I want a new 3DS, and then the parents just go and buy whatever 3DS is there, and the games still work minus those like 8 games or whatever, but
and we cannot get Super Nintendo games on original 3DS. It's not possible.
No. Yeah. And Minecraft
but GBA fucking worked.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I've seen videos of people running the GBA games on 3DS, and you can tell it was a very like slapdash, oh shit, we need to throw these on here, because the NES games are pretty much what they are on VC on there anyways. But the GBA doesn't have the same features, which just says to me they just didn't think it was worth putting time into because they were going to put it on the Wii U instead. Very weird. But it's nice to know there is some backwards compatibility there. It'll hopefully give me some more confidence to sell my old Switch to get the new one, because that's my plan. And I think Nintendo expects a lot of people to do that. They'll either just sell their old Switch or give it to somebody to upgrade to the new one, which is probably why they're like, we need to focus on backwards compatibility, especially with digital libraries these days.
And that takes a lot of pressure off of them for launch games too, if the physical and digital both work, because then if you have a full library of previous system games that look pretty good still, even on the new system, that's what PlayStation's doing. They certainly aren't rushing PlayStation 5 games out the door. So
I'm pretty sure the majority of people use their PS5 as a glorified PS4. I might be one of those people.
Though I think Nintendo, they're still like very traditional, and I think they'll stick with, having like at least one like first party Nintendo game right there from the go, like a big one. Like I think 3D Mario will be there day one. I think it kind of has to. Prime 4 most likely will be there as well. I still think that's going to be a cross-gen thing, and they'll use that game to be like, oh, here's how it looks on the Switch 1, pretty good, but on the Switch 2 it looks even better with like NVIDIA's magic. That, knowing Nintendo, they would just call it magic. But I think, like, it's been long enough since Odyssey, so I think it's time for that follow-up. But beyond those 2 games, I don't know what would be there at launch. Like, I don't think Mario Kart's going to be there at launch.
I was thinking Animal Crossing, because they finally cut all the updates off, and that game sold like gangbusters.
It sold very well. It's the second best-selling Switch game.
Yeah.
I mean, it had the benefit of certain events, but I'm pretty sure it still would have sold.
Yeah, it would have.
Yeah.
Maybe not
COVID,
but
yeah. I mean, I bought it during COVID, and I'm not really an Animal Crossing guy.
I'm not either. That was the only reason I bought it, because there was nothing else to play.
And obviously, we know Legends Arceus is coming, and I love the last one. So, I mean, the next Legends game, whatever.
Is it ZA?
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
XY.
That one will probably be cross-gen as well.
I'm just
like,
hoping
I don't think 3D Mario will be cross-gen. I don't, because I think if they wanted to do another 3D Mario on Switch, they would have by now. I mean, we got 3D World, which is like close enough, I guess. But like, I don't think Mario Kart would be either. Like, there's no reason for that. I mean, who knows what they're going to do with Mario Kart? But now I'm seeing people say, like, what are they going to do with Smash Brothers?
Yeah, because Sakurai doesn't want to make another one. supposedly.
Well, apparently he's working on another game.
Yep, I just saw that thing too, where he said he was told to like put a team together, but it was for an unannounced project, and how many things does he need to put
Yeah.
a team together for?
Yeah.
I don't think it's Smash Brothers though. I don't think
know.
so.
But
He
it
might have
doesn't really matter if it's Smash though. It's going to be Smash eventually.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
said
the thing is, they don't have to get the new Smash out the door. Like they can take their time, especially if it's going to be backwards compatible. It's like, well, then Ultimate's right there, So because like I don't even know what they do with Smash at this point. Like unless they just want to do a hard reboot and start from scratch, but make it like a 3D game or something, which would be interesting, but it's not going to do as well.
Let's be fair. All they have to do is just port Melee, and the Smash fans will be perfectly fine with that.
They're never going to do that.
I know they won't, but you know for a fact.
Like we'll probably get GameCube NSO on the Switch too, and that would be like maybe we'll get Melee, but we don't even have Smash 64.
Yeah,
which I find strange. We don't even have that.
What would stop them from doing what they did with Mario Kart though, and just being like, all right, Smash Ultimate Deluxe, here's all of the characters on the physical game. Congratulations. And
I think
perfectly fine with that. Honestly.
I think like a like when
as
they
a
put
launch
PS4 game to PS5 kind of thing. Yeah. I think the only thing that would get in the way of that is there's so many third-party characters they would have to do all those licenses again. And I don't think
that's as big of a deal now as it used to be though. Like
it might not. It's just that there's so many characters and so many companies involved that it might be too much of a hassle potentially. Because probably when they did the original contracts for these characters, I mean, unless they factored that in, which I doubt. I don't know. I don't think the companies would be against it.
Yeah,
like Sega, Microsoft, Square. Like I'm sure all of them would be down to do it again. It's just does Nintendo care enough to go to the table to figure that out?
For Smash Brothers, possibly. Smash Brothers, legitimately.
I mean, I'm not gonna buy it again though. I have no reason to.
I didn't buy it the first time, so.
I bought it and I haven't played it. The last time I played it was like 2 years ago. So
I only ever play it when like somebody wants to play it online with me, or just like if somebody wants to play it, I'm like, yeah, sure. But by myself, I'm fine, man. I got all the characters. I'm good.
My kids were too young. Now they're old enough. I would probably buy it now, but it's Nintendo tax. Yeah. If it was half the price now, I'd consider it. But
for sure. Yeah, my son likes playing it every once in a while, but he's not very good at it. So like he'll just like fall off the stage half the time and then get mad at me for beating him when I didn't even do anything. But it is what it is. So let's see what else in the news. Warcraft 2 Remastered got leaked.
Hopefully they don't fuck this one up. The Warcraft 3.
Yeah, that was rough. Alone in the Dark 2 is hitting the PS Plus Classics catalog. We got to review that at some point, right?
Yeah, we do.
Oh God.
Yeah, the first
there's
two
a 3D. Yep. Trying to see what else.
That Virtual Fighter thing.
Oh yeah. Sega kind of subtly announced that a part of that like reviving all the old IPs thing, that one of them is a new Virtua Fighter, which goddamn about fucking time. I love Virtua Fighter. It's like I'm not big on the fighting games, but I've always had a soft spot for Virtua Fighter, just for like how simple it is. And then when Virtua Fighter 5 online was in Like a Dragon, Yakuza Like a Dragon, I put actually quite a few hours into just playing that on there and reminded myself that Virtua Fighter is great. They need to do more with this series. Now we don't know who's working on it, obviously. It'd be cool if RGG was working on it, but I kind of doubt it.
I mean, it might be AM2. They're still technically around.
Yeah, I could see them doing it, or maybe AV if they're still around. Though I'm sure if we do get another Virtua Fighter, like Kiru will be in there. He will be most like likely. A secret character. Absolutely.
And they'll throw in Shenmue guy just for the hell of it.
Oh yeah. Get on the forklift. Or maybe we'll get to play as the AM2 logo again.
Or Hornet from
Daytona.
It just becomes
the Saturn version. Yes, Virtua Fighter Mega Mix. That'd be great. So, do you like Virtua Fighter, Quest?
I don't think that I've played one since, like, I had it on my Windows 95 computer. I remember enjoying that. So that must have been the first one.
Yeah.
I liked it because it was
Two.
like you said, simplicity. But 3D Arena Fighters, sometimes I guess. But I don't have like
Yeah.
super fond memories of it or anything.
Yeah. They're not as focused on the 3D arena stuff as like a Tekken or a Soul Calibur are. And weirdly enough, I think as the series progresses, it becomes more and more like 2D focused kind of a thing, like not so focused on moving the map around a lot.
And wasn't there a 2D Virtual Fighter on like Sega Genesis too?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
it's
They
interesting.
ported them.
Because
Yeah.
it's on the Sega Classic Mini. I think that's the first place I played it was when I bought one of those. So.
Yep. Yeah, they made like a 2D sprite version of it for the Genesis. Not Virtua Fighter 1. I believe it was Virtua Fighter 2.
It was 2 because it has the cover art from the Saturn version, and it's kind of a not a great game, but it's better than most kind of half-assed 2D fighters that were thrown out.
It's different, so I give it credit for kind of trying to be its own thing. But yeah, it does not compare to the arcade or even the Saturn version.
I was really surprised by it because I do not remember that from when I was younger, and then to play it, grab a mini when I was in my 30s, and then have it be there. And my kid's like, "Hey, what's this?" And we started playing, and I'm like, "I guess it's Virtual Fighter," but
It sure
Yeah.
is.
I still have my Genesis Mini. I don't really use it.
I
that
got
much.
mine on my shelf. It was a good mini console.
Oh, it's great, and it's very easy to hack as well.
yeah,
I bought mine. It was like the last one the store had. It was like $20, and
Nice.
and the dude at the register, he was like, "Oh, this thing's like really like." I guess he had never seen it before, and he thought it was like really cool. And I told him, "Yeah, I'm gonna hack it and put more games in there," and that blew his mind. He was amazed that you could do that.
That was my favorite part about the PlayStation Classic. Like when it first came out, it was like, "It's shit, don't buy it." And then people found out how to hack it, and I was like, "Buy it now! It's the greatest thing ever."
that's the same reason I own that too. Yeah.
I never bothered. I thought about it, but I just was like, it was the same with like the Genesis Mini. It's like, I'm going to hook this thing up to my TV, play it for like a little bit, think it's cute, and then just put it away and never play with it again. At least with the Genesis, I have that nostalgia connection.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll never get rid of it. But
the PlayStation Classic, the only reason to buy that thing is it is the cheapest way to play Persona 1. Like,
yeah,
because they put Revelations Persona on there for some reason.
Yep.
They asked Atlas, "Do you have anything?" And they're like, "Yeah, take this."
Yeah,
They
take
just
the
threw it
not
at him.
take the not good Persona game from the PS1 era.
And everyone went, "What? That's amazing."
Well, it was because like that game's like $400 now. So
Yeah. So it'd be nice if Sega did that with a Saturn Mini, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I don't think that's even physically possible because Saturn is such a confusing mess to make shit for.
Again, if you got M2 to do it, they got M2 to do the Genesis stuff.
True.
I'm sure they could pull it off. I know they could do it. So, but I think
Actually,
they'd be more likely to do a Dreamcast one.
Same thing with the N64 Mini. I just wish people would stop talking about that. Like, it's just like, why? First of all, why bother when it's all on the NSO? Or
Yeah,
the stuff you're going to put on it is on the NSO. But
yeah. Like the only reason they did the NES and SNES ones was it was like right in between, and
Yep.
they just needed a boost for holiday sales.
Yeah,
That was the only reason they did
it was
them.
the Christmas thing. That was it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they got rid of them so quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean N64 Mini, they could maybe get some more of like the third party stuff on there, but would it be worth it? Probably.
They could also
not.
just put that on the NSO and just charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the games I would want are the games that they're never going to get because they're not going to want to license the wrestling games.
No.
I mean, they could do like Virtual Pro or whatever, but
Even that has WWE Hall of Famers on it, so they'd still be
yeah,
licensed, so.
yeah, I think Vader's in there,
Mhm.
but I don't associate Vader with WWF.
And then like the Funk Brothers are on Virtual Pro too, and they're WWE Hall of Famers. And
Yeah,
Which fighting game was the one that just had Fred Durst in it for no reason?
that's SmackDown.
SmackDown. Yeah, I think so.
that was on the PlayStation.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was in a couple fighters for some reason. Back
Well,
in
it was
What?
at that time. That's when Undertaker had the biker thing.
Yep.
And
that was
he-
the
and he
compromise
had the
of the
rolling.
music. Yep.
roll. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
rolling.
that
In fact, it was a WrestleMania 19. He played him out to the ring.
Mm.
Like Fred
Because,
Durst showed up, but it was 2003, and it's like Limp Bizkit was dead at that point. But they're
No,
like,
they-
we can
they
afford him
hadn't-
now.
They hadn't released results may vary yet, so they were still sort
It
of
was
relevant.
close. It was around the corner. So,
Freaking
but I feel like by
Yeah.
2003, the Limp Bizkit thing was kind of over and done with.
Wes Borland had left by that point, so no one gave a crap after that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's what's one of the weaker parts of WrestleMania 19, but that's a good show.
But on that note, we should probably transfer into our.
The only other thing I saw was Take-Two has said that GTA 6 will come out fall next year.
Oh, cool.
They said in like an earnings report. So cool. We'll get to see this game. We'll get to see how well it does or doesn't do.
I'm sure it'll do well. I don't know if it'll do as well as 5.
It's not. I don't anticipate that. And then people are going to freak out when it doesn't sell as well. And I'm like,
is the gaming industry dying? Like,
yes.
Like, okay.
I think it's not dead. It just smells funny. And it's in a weird spot right now. And I think a lot of people are expecting GTA 6 to save it, but I really don't think it's going to save it. And then they're going to be like, we don't know what to do. We're just going to fire everybody because that's all we know what to do.
Well, step one would be don't spend $800 million making it, and then you don't have to make $800 million back, and then it's not a failure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it'll make its money back. I'm sure it will. It's just a lot of what people have been saying is like the big thing is the online component. Like how many people bought GTA 5 just to do the online stuff, and what are you going to do to offer them to like move over to it?
Yeah,
you know, because ever since GTA Online, they tried the Red Dead Online and it didn't work. Like people didn't really stick with that. So,
well, that doesn't look cool in TikToks, brother. Like it's got to look cool in 10-second videos.
I mean, Red Dead does look cool. Like it's
the thing is
one of the most graphically impressive games I've ever seen.
Red Dead players actually care about the story, though.
Yeah,
unlike
yeah.
fans who are there just to kill
I
things.
feel like people really overrate Red Dead too. Like it's a fine game, but I think people are just like, oh, it's so realistic and all this stuff, and it is. But it's like that's not why I showed up. You know, I just wanted to play a game, man, and I think it's as good as the first one.
I think that's the thing. The majority of people, the first one had such a phenomenal story, and like people still talk about to this day.
Yeah.
The majority of people who bought the second one bought it because of the story.
That's why I bought it. It's not a bad story, but I just don't like it as much.
That's fair.
But it is what it is.
So I feel like we're all in consensus before we go to the last thing, to the actual game that we're here for. but so
could you be more condescending?
I can, yes. But like we're all in agreement that like you said, video games kind of has stink on them right now, which is why so many people are playing games from the last generation or going into indie or playing retro and things like that. So do you think that the Switch 2 will fully embrace that? I mean, Switch has done a pretty good job. So I have a couple friends. I have one friend that just made a game called Maplewood Valley, and he straight out told me, because we were actually talking about another indie game, Squirrel with a Gun. I don't know if you
yeah, that has a physical edition for the Xbox, which I will hunt down and get eventually.
And not on the Switch though. So, but the reason we brought
that's weird.
I'm friends with both of those creators, and the guy who did Maplewood Valley is like, I can't believe that he didn't put it on the Switch. He's like, it's like step one for indie developers now is Switch compatibility, is to get your game on the Switch. That's where it sells compared to Xbox and PlayStation. So I would hope that Nintendo knows that. I mean, they have to know it. Like they're Nintendo, right?
I'm sure they do.
Like their software sales are really good.
Yeah.
Like across the board. I think when they did the earnings for the hardware and all, I think the software, it's like, what's it, like 1.3 billion software total for the Switch, which is fantastic.
Well, one thing that the Switch has that the Xbox and PlayStation don't have is because it's handheld hybrid, you can get a lot of people that'll like say like have like a show going on in the background. They can just chill on the couch and like browse the store. And like sometimes you'll be watching something, you'll just kind of catch something on your eye, you'll just buy it out of impulse. Like it's just a thing.
Yeah, and the Nintendo fans are still like kind of like more traditional, so they'll go out of their way to like buy the physical copies of games, and you know, like you see like the shelves of red spines and everything, which has to hurt the eyes. But like it works, and I think Switch 2. I feel like the Switch 2 is going to be very much like the Super Nintendo to the Switch's NES. Like it'll kind of tread water. Like it'll be kind of the same thing, but it'll be graphically better. It'll sell well. People will like it. It'll probably have a lot of great games for it, but it's not going to have the same splash as the original did. So people are going to look at it and be like, it looks like it's a step down because it's not going to sell as well, but it'll do just fine. You know, like that thing will probably sell roughly. It'll do better than the 3DS, I think, as far as like those sales will go. But I don't
To
know
be
how
fair,
much beyond that.
that's not super hard.
Well, the 3DS was like 75 million. So, and I think if the Switch 2 can cross that, then that's pretty good.
So it's
And they could surprise us, though. I mean, I don't think anybody thought the Switch was going to be a top 5 console of all time coming off of Wii U. So
No, I remember when the Switch was coming out, I was like, this is going to be better than the Wii U. Like, it kind of has to be.
yeah,
Because they could take the Wii U being a failure, right? But I was like, if the Switch fails, then they're in trouble, right? But then at first it was like, oh, it's doing just fine. And then it just kept going and going. And then I think it was by like the end of 2018, we were like, yeah, this thing's going to be just fine.
That's why they.
But
kept
nobody
the
expected where it is now.
Yeah. That's why they kept the 3DS going for a little bit because they wanted that backup plan.
Which was smart. You know, they always do that. Like when the DS came out, they were still supporting the GBA.
Yeah.
They supported the GBA for quite a few years after as well. So
They did.
and
What's
you could play those
hilarious?
games on the DS as well. So smart.
What's hilarious though is like it still gets me that like the whole reason why the 3DS got killed off was because a freaking Mario game bombed and they were like, all right, it's dead.
A game that shouldn't have been on there in the
yeah,
first
it didn't
place.
need to be on there. Yeah.
A game that didn't need to exist, period.
Yeah. But now we have the next Mario and Luigi game. It's out. Or is it out? Or is it out this week? Or
I think it's this week.
okay.
I think it's tomorrow. I think it's the 7th.
Yeah,
Okay. Hopefully people seem to like it. There's a little controversy around.
Most reviewers liked it from what I saw.
Yeah.
Other than
Oh yeah.
other than IGN. Yeah,
Well, the only
So-
thing they complained about and some other people complained about was the story and the humor weren't hitting like the original games. That was like sort of the main issue.
I mean, that's understandable if it's a different dev. So
Yeah, so I'll see what
We'll
y'all
see.
think about it.
all right. So like we probably should get to our topic. We've already spent half the episode waffling as we usually do.
Well, we'll spend an
Um,
hour on this game, man.
So we are talking 3DO, but we're actually going beyond the 3DO console and we're actually going into some third-party territory. So a lot of people, for those who don't know, 3DO, basically the console kind of went under around like 96-ish. And the 3DO company itself by that point just kind of took their studio 3DO development studio and just kind of made that their primary developer, and they kind of transitioned over into full on. They basically did a Sega before Sega did, and became a third party company. And they made a whole bunch of stuff, notably the Army Men series, but they also made a little game called BattleTanx, and that is what we will be covering for this episode. So
Hey, Quest, where's your complete in-box copy?
I don't have a complete one. I have a loose one though.
Oh, I thought you had a complete. I thought you had them all complete.
No, God, no. Like Sculptor's Cut complete, like just the
Oh, you're not
manual
that
for-
crazy?
No, I have quite a few complete, but that's like cardboard was really expensive, and
Yeah.
it's just getting more expensive. So if
That's
they have
fair.
the fancy
That's fair.
clamshells like Sega, maybe, but not just cardboard. So
That's fair. That's fair. Like I'm trying to go for a complete Game Gear set, and I have 2 complete in box because they were cheap. You know, it's like
that's the same way I
do you want a loose Game Gear game for $5 or do you want a complete in box for $70? Like, I'll take the $5 one.
see, N64 is almost easier. I mean, it's not easier, but it's closer. So like, especially with like good sports games, even like the Blitz series, the loose games go for like, $15-20. Complete ones are like $35-40. So if you only want to spend 10 or 15 more for a complete copy, but you could also buy another whole game then. So
That's true. That's true.
So a little backstory on this game. It was released in 1998, only in North America. That's very common for 3DO published games. Exclusively on the Nintendo 64. There was also a similarly named but unrelated game for the Game Boy Color, which was released in 2000.
I mean, isn't it kind of the same game? Isn't it like a demake?
It's trying to be, but it's basically a different game.
yeah, a different company then developed it for that. So I mean, there wasn't even
Yes.
3DO. So
So it's one of my favorite companies. So the main game was obviously made by the 3DO company itself. The GBC version was made by Lucky Chicken Games,
Mm-hmm.
who also made that horrendous Aquaman game on GameCube, I think.
Aquaman Battle for Atlantis.
Yeah,
I've played that game.
Superman 64 underwater.
It's weirdly more playable than Superman 64, but it's
More
boy.
playable.
I mean, it's a low bar. It's a low bar. I know.
To be fair, DC released 3 of the worst superhero games of all time that year. Around that time, because they released that Aquaman game. There was Superman Man of Steel on Xbox, which is worse than Superman 64.
Is that the exclusive one?
Yeah, the one that's like in the future and it's unplayable.
Yeah, I've never played that game.
It's bad. And then there was the Batman Dark Tomorrow game, which is also really bad.
Oh, I played that one. Oh God. Nightmare.
Yeah, Lucky Chicken Games. But other than that, there's not a ton of development info on the original BattleTanx. It kind of just exists.
I've got a little, if you want me to, from my.
Sure.
So I've covered this game a couple times.
Please, Mr. N64.
So the creative director was Mike Menheim, who did he did the Mutant League game, so Mutant League Hockey, Mutant League Football for second stuff. He got the inspiration from this from a Namco arcade game, a Japan only one called Tokyo Wars, which was a like sit down. It looks like Cruising USA but with tanks. So it's like 4 sit down booths side by side kind of thing. And then
I can see it.
Yeah, but it kind of played like, did you guys? I don't know how much Dreamcast you guys like, but it kind of played like Alien Front Online.
Okay.
Yeah, that game is that. I love that game.
I do too. Yeah. So the idea was, because this game came out later, after GoldenEye, he was trying to combine the sit down driving of Tokyo Wars, and then add in the multiplayer fun of GoldenEye, which was the big thing, And that was the inspiration for this game, was those 2 games.
So I kind of had this weird thought when I was playing this game before we kind of get into gameplay. The best way I described this game when I was thinking about it is, this game is Blast Corps if it was just edgy and like dark for no reason.
A little bit.
Because it's kind of the same thing. You just destroy shit.
Yeah, but you do have like objectives. I mean, I think you do.
True.
You do as well as in Blast Corps as well. But it reminded me slightly of a different Namco arcade game where you're like tanks and you're like shooting shit. I forget what it's called. It's more of like an overhead 2D one. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head though. Let me see if I can find it.
When I think of tanks, I always think of I believe it's called Battle Zone.
Oh yeah,
But
the
that
original.
with like the green and black, where you like stuck your face into the goggles and stuff like that.
They were like vector graphics, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah. That was at a laundromat that would used to be pretty close to my house. So that was where I dumped all my quarters. So I've always been into tank warfare. This game, obviously, between the music from the composer whose name we can't find because they're hidden behind the name, a different name.
Well, it's slightly similar to a while ago I did an episode with Aaron talking about Shining Force, and we were talking about how the composer for that game people theorize is a pen name, because the composer of that only did Shining Force 1 and Shining in the Darkness. That's all they've done. And how high quality those soundtracks are, it's like there's no way they just did those 2 and disappeared. Like, it has to be a pen name for somebody else, but
and
nobody really knows who.
It happened a ton in Japan at the time, because they were limited on how many games you could be working on, what studios you were working with. So that they all had multiple names, so they could work with their friends on a different game somewhere else, or be working 2 jobs at once, since they're already working themselves.
Yeah, it's very possible. And like, it was done by like Sonic Software Planning, like an in-house Sega studio. So yeah, it could have been like somebody who worked for a completely different company. But
that's actually kind of my theory with BattleTanks, is that it was, so there's actually a lot of 3DO games like made by 3DO that like the composers just aren't listed. I feel like they had an internal sound team and they just kind of did games and they were just never credited.
It either could be that, or they were like licensing, or they were like trying to like hire like contractors to do the music or whatever and not crediting them. which has always been a thing in the gaming industry, like, you know, proper credits and all that. So it could have just been that they were just like, oh, random people that make music for like random shit, make it for this game, please. You know,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah, when you
possible.
watch-
There's a lot
you watch-
because a lot of 3DO game company games were made very like, just throw the shit out. We got to get it out. So
Yeah, when you watch the credits roll, it's Play Attack is the name, but Googling that will get you nowhere. So
Yeah. Before we go into gameplay, I did want to bring up the story because this game's story is such a fucking 3DO storyline. It's not even funny.
One of the best stories on the N64.
It's
So bad.
it kind of is amazing.
Yeah.
The opening cutscene, when I first played this, I was like, oh, this is a 3DO game, all right, because this is taking fucking forever just to get the game. But you're interested.
And those opening like cutscenes and the way the story is being like laid out to you at the start, it's like this shit could have been on the 3DO and it would have been fine. Like we'll get into a gameplay. Honestly, I could see this game on the 3DO itself. You know, like I don't think it's graphically that intensive to be N64 only. Like you downgrade it a little bit and it would fit just fine on a 32-bit system. But yeah, the story, please.
For a brief summary, in
2001.
I'll give my best explanation. In 2001, a virus has killed 99% of the female population of Earth. Various countries fight over each other's quarantine zones and end up engaging in nuclear war, destroying much of the civilization. A few remaining women, called Queen Lords, are held by gangs who have taken over small pieces of the world. The main character, Griffin Spade, has his fiancée, Madison, taken away to Queens, New York by the U.S. government. Griffin becomes separated from his fiancée and New York City is destroyed. He claims a tank for his own and sets out across the USA to find her, battling gangs to reach his goal.
It's amazing.
So it's Mad Max with tanks. And
I swear,
Handmaid's Tale.
I swear this is an anime plot, only reverse females with males, and it's a harem anime.
I mean, yeah, and
probably
I think the cutscene, and the cutscenes try to go a little bit more in detail about how the virus like specifically targeted like females because of like their genetic makeup is slightly different. And it's like, you know, that they're starting to like hoard them and just, you know, it's weird that they're treated as like a very important resource, but they're just like being thrown in like chain gangs and just being like locked up in like these max security prisons.
This is such a fucking
and just being used for breeding purposes. That's all. It's the incel's dream, you know. It's a state mandated breeding session.
This is just straight up 90s and so many like. You could not get away with a plot.
And those faces, like when they do the close ups of like I would never want to leave you, and he's just like, you know, those close ups are amazing.
It's 3DO Children of Men is all it is.
It's a great analogy.
I hadn't played this game in quite a while, so when I booted it up, I was like, "Holy fuck! Like, what a weird, what a story!" Like,
they definitely like put some thought into it. Like, it's clear they were like, "Oh, this would be like really fucking cool, man." Like, I could only imagine like the writer's room when they're like figuring this out, and they're just like, "Man, this is going to be some like really cool shit." You know what I mean?
Well, this was still the era of.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. I'll catch up.
Okay. I was just gonna say that this was still the era where like the perceived girls don't play games mentality was going on too. So, I can see where their thought process was going.
Yeah, and that's what Mike said. He's like, if we redid this now, he's like 65-70% of it would have to be redone because because of the gaming landscape changing and women playing games. And it not being the 90s anymore, most of this story just wouldn't play. He's like,
I mean, girls were playing games in the 90s, though.
They were, but most of them weren't super upfront about it.
And they would be super into a game that's about women being objectified and most of them being dead. And, you know.
Yeah. Unless you're like, well, and there wasn't like weird online grifter women who are just like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Also,
okay.
Also, it's 3DO, and I'll tell you, our demographics for this podcast are like 80 or like 97% male and like 2% female listeners. So
Nice.
Hi,
Yeah.
two females, and I know neither one of them are Alex.
I was gonna say 2 other than
Yeah.
Alex. Yep.
it's
Yeah.
not Alex because she listened to one episode and that was the Q&A we did just to hear her question and then never again.
She's like, you didn't talk about the Jaguar. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, so the story is something. That's the best way.
That's
to
the way to
describe it.
put it. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. It's just like
it
how it's just like doesn't give a shit.
It is a very
know?
much a period piece of the late 90s.
It feels like it would be like a sci-fi movie in like 1982. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It has that feel to it. And I'm surprised there isn't a movie. There probably is a movie that like has a similar plot to this. You
There's
know?
one comic book.
Didn't Duke Nukem Forever do this plot later?
If they did, I don't remember. I try
thought,
not
like-
to remember Duke Nukem Forever.
I thought aliens were kidnapping women in that game and turning
They
them into
I'll
baby
believe you.
machines, basically. I'm pretty sure that was the plot because there's the infamous Duke line where he finds them like in the alien ship and he just goes, "You're fucked." And I'm just like, great, wonderful.
Only Duke.
This game totally started development in 1996.
Yep.
Our very woke leftist hero, Duke Nukem.
But this game works in a vacuum, though. Like if you're thinking about it for like a video game, if you can get all of the plot out in the first 2 minutes of the game, and everything else is tanks and explosions, and those don't compete with each other, awesome.
Yeah. Because like the story doesn't progress that much as long as you keep going.
No, it's
No.
just Cruising USA after that. So
Yeah, pretty
Unless-
much. They're just like, look, here's your motivation if you need it, and then just go out and do the tank shit.
Yeah,
you
do the
know,
tank
like
thing.
when you're playing it, you're like, this could be about anything.
And let's be real, the majority of people who probably play this game nowadays just fucking mash through the cutscene anyways. So it's like,
Oh, probably, yeah.
but they shouldn't. And this podcast is here to tell you watch the beginning one time.
Yes, yes. At least to see the close-ups of the faces, like
Yeah.
like those will haunt my nightmares forever.
see, that's up there with other sort of 3DO experience. Army Men Sarge's War with fucking Sarge just screaming no into the camera.
Well, we haven't talked about those yet.
Oh, we will at some point. Trust me.
That's gonna be an endeavor.
So now that we've gotten past that wonderful story, gameplay wise, the game is essentially GoldenEye actually is a pretty interesting comparison because I'm pretty sure the majority of people who play this game only play it for the multiplayer these days.
Maybe.
Yeah, or maybe just try to like breeze through the single player. You know,
Hmm.
like I imagine this is the kind of game that like if like you're retro game collecting and you're like, oh, I'm interested in the N64, and then you look through the N64 games and then you see this game BattleTanx, and it's probably not like a super pricey one, you know, as far as it's concerned, and you're trying to like fluff out your collection. You're like, oh, I'll just get this one. Why not? You know, and then people play through it, kind of a thing. And they're probably playing like the single player because, you know, a lot of retro gamers don't always have friends. So
True.
and yeah, playing the single player, it's, you know, it's GoldenEye is an interesting comparison. I could see why you would make that comparison, but I don't know. It's just maybe because it's like a third person tank game and not a first person shooter. It wouldn't have immediately hit me.
Sure. Well, it also carries over to the single player, like you guys are talking about, because he tried to design the levels like in a corridor style. So even though it is a big square, most of the levels are, you know, if you look at the map, it's a big square. You know, it's explodable, but you know, the idea was to guide you down a certain path through the big square. So you weren't searching for just one random tank hiding off in the corner or something like that. It was to give you like set piece experiences and then get you to the end, but then give you different, you know, because it was technically an open map, you could do it different ways, like on GoldenEye.
Yeah.
But the idea is if you were just playing through it to play through it, you would be
I kind of,
funneled correctly. So
Yeah, and it doesn't do the GoldenEye thing of like having like different missions and like side missions you could do as you're going through. So yeah, which is part of what makes the open-ended thing in GoldenEye work more, because you can find random side things to do.
I kind of like the bridge style levels where you're kind of like on this straight corridor and you just kind of have to get from beginning to end.
Yeah. Like the gameplay it's incredibly simple. You know, like a good chunk of the game you could play one-handed.
Yes, you can.
Because you're just moving with the stick and shooting with Z. Like that's all you need. So which fulfills the Tokyo War arcade game thing, where it's very simple.
It's
But
got great implementation of the N64 controller.
Yeah, and it's very solid. Like it was a solid, I would say a great game, but you know it does what it does well. Yeah, good. Yeah,
compared to what some of 3DO's other output was at this time, this game is pretty impressive just for the fact that it's well constructed.
Yeah.
Graphically, I mean, it's 3DO standards. It looks fine. It's nothing too amazing, but
to me, it looks like, you know, you could compare it to like any other N64 game, and I'd be like, yep, that's about right. You know, there's something about the N64 graphical style. I don't know what it is. Like it's like the weird smoothing edges that they tend to have, especially in this game. Some bad, just like I don't know, weirds me out. I don't know.
These are all compliments coming from Threk, by the way. People at home, this is as good as it gets for Threk from the N64 end. So,
I mean, we're not talking about the wrestling games though. I love those games.
But they do the same thing. They have the faces that would haunt you.
Oh yeah, haunting faces.
And then the
64 faces.
The bodies,
if you squint hard enough, it's like that looks like Chris Jericho.
Yeah, you're just sitting too close to the TV. You got to back up.
I did used to sit real close to the TV when I play at 64.
So the game, another thing I love about the game too is like just how fucking destructible everything is. Like you just blow everything up. It's kind of like Red Faction Guerrilla, but not as cool as that game was.
Yeah, or like Battlefield Bad Company. Like when that came out, one of its big selling points was the destructible environments.
Yeah, I think like Red Faction Guerrilla is like still the pinnacle of just how like awesome that game engine was. But like for in late 90s N64, it's fine. It does the job well enough.
Oh
yeah. There wasn't a lot else that was doing the same kind of thing then. So
yeah, like again, it's like direct comparison would be like Blast Corps, but with Blast Corps, like
you're using utility equipment.
And destroying things like destruction of the environment was part of like the main appeal of that game. Whereas with BattleTanx, with BattleTanx, it's just like, you know, it's kind of like a means to an end kind of thing. Yeah. But you know, which with the kind of slightly open-ended map style and everything, it's nice to have those destructible environments. Because then you don't feel like a rat in the maze the whole time. You know, because this game, it feels like it could be that, but that really helps. And yeah, if you want to play it in a slightly different way, you know, the destructible environments can help.
I will say too, I never found this game particularly frustrating. Like it wasn't super challenging, but it also wasn't like boring. Like I got through it perfectly easily. Like I had no issues.
Yeah. The only times I would have an issue is say like the game wanted you to like destroy something to progress. And then I was like, oh, which one is it?
Yeah. I mean, that's
N64, and that's a very minor complaint.
Yeah, then you just blow it all up, all of it.
Yeah, just destroy everything. You'll find it
there are some things you can't blow up. Not a lot, but
then you know that's not the thing, Threk.
Okay,
you'll figure it out eventually. Did you guys mess around with multiplayer at all, or?
I have no friends. What are you talking about?
I have played multiplayer. Yeah. I have kids, so
I managed to get Alex out of her hovel to play this one.
You got her to play an N64 game? That's big.
So we had done it for we're in the process of eventually covering N64 again on GNC, but it's an ongoing project. It'll be a while. But I did get her to play a little BattleTanx, and it's fun. There's 4 basic gameplay modes in multiplayer. There's Battle Lord, which is you have to capture the opponent's Queen Lords. Capture the flag, essentially.
Yep, capture the flag with the woman. Yep.
Yeah.
The woman is the flag.
Deathmatch, which was first to reach 7 kills. Family mode, which is deathmatch, but ammo cannot be switched, only used up. I don't know why it's called family mode, but okay. And then Annihilation, which provides each competitor with 5 tanks, and the last survivor wins. So, yeah.
Sounds very basic. So, But how is the multiplayer? Let me know.
It's
It's
good.
fun.
It's not rocket surgery or anything like that, but like it's
Rocket
tanks.
Surgery. That's a great multiplayer game.
Like, I'll say, if you were to say like you went to a party and brought this and N64 along, people would probably play it and have a good
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, I could see that. Like imagine like you do around a Mario Party, and then like everyone's so pissed off, then you put in BattleTanx, and then everyone gets to shoot each other. So
Yeah.
it'd be a good palate cleanser after a round of Mario Party.
It's not quite like Slappers Only and GoldenEye, but it's
No,
fun.
Have you guys played Winback at all?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I played it when it hit NSO, and we actually did the online multiplayer for that.
Yeah.
And that was surprisingly fun.
So I equate it the same way, where so the BattleTanx experiences, the single player game, objectives, going through the game, learning the story, and then the multiplayer is just like distilled, like they pick two things. They're like, all right, if you want to skip all of that other stuff, here's the tanks and some ammo. Get your friends. And it's the same way with Winback. Winback had a fun, a kitschy B movie story and lots of cool things. Like the single player game was fun to play through. But then when you went to the multiplayer, it was still fun, but it's just distilled down to cover shooter. All right, here's just the combat. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. Like Winback, I felt like it was trying to be like N64's like Metal Gear Solid.
Well, it's Konami. It was made at the same time.
Konami didn't do Winback.
Yeah, they did.
I thought Koei did it.
No, it's sister studios. Konami Studio did them side by side.
Really? Oh, yeah, it was Omega Force.
Oh no, wait. No, you're right. I'm thinking of Hybrid Heaven, not Winback.
Oh, the other N64
Hybrid
RPG.
Heaven was the side by side Metal Gear Solid. Like they literally were making the same game and sharing notes with Hybrid Heaven and Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. Hybrid Heaven was Konami. Yeah, Winback was like,
Koei. Yeah, they did that after like that was their first game that wasn't like Dynasty Warriors and the other other strategy games they did.
Yeah, and it felt like they were trying to like take a little bit from like Metal Gear Solid or even like Siphon Filter a little bit, and do their own thing, which it didn't work as well as those games, but it's perfectly fine for what it is.
To be fair, Siphon Filter hasn't aged well unless you
it hasn't. It hasn't.
Other than the taser, it has the greatest taser of all time.
That's fair.
You can tase people from across the screen until they set on fire and die.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever played Hybrid Heaven.
You would like
it. It's interesting.
You're gonna make me play an N64 game again? Okay.
It's another RPG. You like it.
It's one of the system's
sometimes
6 RPGs, I think.
Just you people in that stupid number. Oh my god.
I'm kidding. I don't actually.
Don't make me list them all like I like to do.
Is Zelda? Would you list Zelda as one of them?
It depends what kind of mood I'm in. Who starts the fight? Like,
well, that's the funny.
Well,
thing
I've never considered Zelda an RPG personally.
Well, on the cover of Ocarina of Time, it says RPG, like literally on the cover of the game. So.
Oh, when it was like what RPG game of the year or something?
No, it's just listed as RPG next to the one player on the Japanese box. Just says RPG.
Oh, interesting.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that I think it's an RPG all the time, but
yeah, I find that interesting because I know like Miyamoto has said that he didn't want it to be an RPG.
Miyamoto also flip flops a lot, though.
Yeah, they also listed
like those tables he flips.
Yeah.
Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 on Nintendo's website are also RPGs, and so is Animal Crossing, which obviously started on the N64. So
you could also argue Harvest Moon.
Your preferred version.
It is my preferred version because it's the same as the GameCube version, which is also my preferred version.
It's the same game. Yeah. Does the N64 one have the NES games in it?
It doesn't. No.
Okay, so it's not the best version.
That's Well, even the best version isn't the best version because we're missing Legend of Zelda. There's 2 ROMs that aren't in the GameCube version that exist. Somebody finally mined them out. I think it was just last year, and let you play the original Legend of Zelda on the GameCube version. So.
Wasn't it because they were e-reader cards that just were never made or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, because Animal Crossing had the e-reader stuff.
I love walking past that e-reader kiosk in the game and being like, that's a product of its time right there.
I have an e-reader.
I do
Yeah,
too,
same.
but I have
Yep.
like no cards for it anywhere.
I have a pack of the Mario 3 cards. Like I bought them sealed in the pack, and then I opened them as cleanly as I could. But I still have the package, so I could add some of the secret levels to my copy of Advance 4.
See,
I've done the process. I don't recommend it.
See, I just get PTSD whenever I think of the e-reader because I just think of read error.
Yep.
Read error.
Yeah.
So getting back into BattleTanx, reception wise, the N64
It got
game,
tens across the board, right?
it got favorable reviews.
Yeah.
So according to Game Rankings, it has a 79% for N64. The GBC version has a 42. So
That's unfair.
but it also only has like 3 rankings as opposed to like many more on the N64.
Yeah.
Ironically, All Game reviewed the Game Boy Color version, but not the N64 version for whatever reason.
As All Game does. But IGN gave it an 8, which makes it better than the Brotherhood game that's coming out.
Brothership.
Yeah.
Yes, because they're all on a solid scale. That's how that
Exactly.
So,
That's why they do numbers, right?
yeah. So the majority of rankings were pretty much like around like the high like 60s to like 70, like 70s range. The lowest ranking I can see here is GameSpot gave it a 5.5 and EGM gave it a 5.875 because why give single numbers? We need to have all these decimal points for whatever reason.
Yeah. Ugh. Like I'm fine with if you want to do like 7.5 or something like that, right?
Or like
once you
percentages or whatever.
I mean, if you want to do it like on a 1 to 100 scale, you know, it's like I don't know. I could never really vibe with that. It's like when like Pitchfork, like they'll rate like an album like a 6.8, and I'm like, I don't know how you come to that number. You know, I can do like 6 or 6.5, or I've seen some people like more people are doing like letter grades where it's like this game's like a B-. Like I can vibe to that, you know, because I don't know, it makes sense to me. But you know, giving it a percentage, I don't know.
I don't like letter grades because once people think that C is bad, that's when video games get in trouble. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I view C as like average.
As long as you don't think C is 70%, then we're fine. So
I always say
kind of. I don't
no,
know.
70% is 70% good.
It's just like
bad.
it's just the education system we grew up in. That's how we view it.
hey, a D+ is a passing grade. That's all I'll say.
D stands for degree.
Yeah. The highest rank was actually GamePro gave it 4.5 stars.
Yeah, it's just like what the fuck, man. And there's a little there's a little note. They gave it a 4 out of 5 for graphics, and then 4.5 for sound, control, and overall fun factor.
My favorite is Next Generation said for the console version, it was fast and controls well, and it's got tanks blowing up everything in sight. Sounds good to us.
8 out of 10.
Yeah. 8 out of 10. Yeah.
No, it was a score.
It is like in a weird subset of like tank games, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's like its own small little niche that like I've seen like, you know, World of Tanks and all that other stuff. So
I love
some people just like to blow shit up.
I totally get it, you know. And if this game scratches that itch for you, why the hell not?
It's kind of like a spiritual successor to like Return Fire in a way, kind of, if it was just tanks.
Kinda, yeah. Like I think Return Fire maybe has a little bit more variety to it than this game does, but I think BattleTanx, if I had to compare the two, I think BattleTanx it's much more consistent overall.
Probably.
You know what I mean? Whereas Return Fire, I mean, I view that game more as like a flying game.
True.
Because I think that's when you have the most fun with that game is when you're in like the copter. But you're never really in it for that long, especially in some of the later sections. And Return Fire as well, like has more of a focus on multiplayer than single player. So,
True.
But I think BattleTanx handles the single player aspect of it and just being a game where it's like, yeah, you're a tank and you got to blow shit up to rescue your trophy wife to breed her.
Yeah, that's how the plot went.
Not trophy wife yet. I think.
Well, he proposes to her and she says yes.
Okay, but they're not married at the proposal. That's not how that works,
I wouldn't know, man.
At any rate, I think so. When I think of games like BattleTanx, 3DO podcast, when I think of games like this, that just have you trogging through a level and blowing stuff up, it makes me like this was like Nintendo's attempt at capturing like games like Akari Warriors and stuff like that off of the NES, where it didn't really matter what you were doing. It was just that there needed to be a lot of it and it needed to keep your attention. And I thought that this was a good attempt at that kind of, lots of explosions, things, weapons people recognize, vehicles people recognize, pushing the military complex through a fun video game kind of thing. And
yeah, the controls are very
worked.
simple. It's
Yep.
easy to understand. It has a pick up and play value to it. You know,
Bucketheads love it.
Looks okay enough.
yeah, it looks fine. Yeah.
I will say too, for the time frame this came out, so it was 98. 3DO was starting to hit their decline. People were kind of getting tired of their shit. Like Might and Magic was doing okay, I guess, at the time. That was about it.
The problem was they were just churning games out way too fast.
Well, it was interesting because like New World Computing was actually taking their time and making decent Might and Magic games. But then like 3DO was like, we need to release Army Men games. We need 7 for this year. Any questions?
Commence. Yeah.
You have your objective, men.
And we're only giving you 1 team to do it. Just have fun.
So did the same team do the ones on? I'm not a huge Army Men fan, but like, did they do the ones on like Windows and stuff too? The like point and click move like strategy style ones?
Those are the original ones. So
cool.
It's unclear who actually made the Army Men games because they're all listed as just the 3DO company. No specific teams or anything. The only one that was definitely not made by, well, some of the handheld ones were made by other studios, but they were so insignificant at the time. The only one that notably was made by another studio was RTS, which was made by Pandemic.
Yeah, that was one of their first games. And it stands as one of the better games in the series.
It's arguably the best game in the Army Men series too, when you really think about it.
I mean, there are some people who really like those early like tactics ones.
The tactic ones are good. I will defend Air Attack till like the day I die because I still think Air Attack 1 and 2
you're
are
an Air Attack
phenomenal
guy.
games.
Yeah, and I believe like the original like PC ones were going to be on the M2, the 3DO successor.
Yes,
but that obviously didn't happen.
But instead, they're on the N64. One of them is. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean that's how I first played the Army Men games, is on the N64.
Yeah.
Because I thought they looked cute, and then I'm like, ooh, these don't control very well.
Sarge's Heroes.
Good old Sarge's Heroes.
Dreamcast port. We'll get to it eventually.
That's the way to play that game. Yeah.
So before we get into Must Play OK Stay Away, I will mention that this game did have a direct sequel called BattleTanx Global Assault. We're going to be covering that in the future at some point.
Maybe we'll get Mike back if he wants.
I'll talk more tanks. I mean, 3/4 of this episode wasn't tanks anyway, so
Yeah.
Count me in.
Bill, does this game have a memory manager?
I'm sure if you shove the cartridge into your 3DO, it might work. There is that. I mean, there is the little port on the side.
Well, I was trying to think. Are there N64 games that like if you put like say the expansion pack for the memory stuff, like you can go in and like manage?
Well, there are.
That's not how that works. The expansion pack doesn't hold any save files.
Yeah, there is the memory cards in the controller that some games use.
That's what I was thinking of, but I call it an expansion pack. It was the controller pack, right?
Yeah.
I just got the name wrong.
Okay.
I don't think BattleTanx uses that. I don't even know if BattleTanx really saves. I don't really remember, to be honest, because I did it in one go.
It's a short enough game. I don't think it really needs a save. I don't remember seeing it have a password in there. It might, because there's like a mission select in the menu. So maybe, because it was getting, I mean, and a lot of N64 games saved to the system anyways, right?
Because some of the cards have battery backups.
Yeah.
I have a list. I'm just checking my list quick
Of course you do.
of game save methods.
Of course you do.
Well, because only like 10 of them had SRAM where they saved to the cart. The
Yeah.
really expensive with no battery kind of one. Then there was another handful with RAM, and then like 210 of them used memory cards. So I mean, yeah, both BattleTanx games used the controller pad to save.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't have mine in, so it probably didn't even recognize it.
Yeah, there was another like 100 or so games that used like a 4-bit like EEPROM to save things like, ghost times in racing games and all that simple stuff that could stay on the card. But a lot of
Yeah.
them used.
And that was like new tech at the time, wasn't it? The EEPROM.
Yeah.
So I guess now to go into it, okay, must play, stay away. I'm gonna say it's okay. I don't think you need to play BattleTanx to like to be like truly happy in life, but if you do happen to play it,
I don't know about that.
you'll have a good time. Like this is not like a game that I feel like is a chore to play. I think it's one of those games you put it in, play it, take it out, and you're like, that was fun. And then you just put it back on the shelf and maybe you'll play it again in 20 years.
It's the perfect like okay game if you just need something to like shut your brain off for a few hours. You know, if you just need to unwind after like a shitty day. Like this is a game that would do that for you. So yeah, perfectly okay. I would not say must play, especially in the N64 library,
Which
like
is exemplary. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. There's so much to choose from.
That's what you just said. It's not a play on that library. I took it out. It came out of your.
I mean, to be fair, it's not. But it's okay.
The must play part is you must at least watch a video of the opening cutscene in the story.
Absolutely. The story is it's a must watch game. How about that?
You need to experience it because holy fuck. But
it doesn't hold back.
It's very of its time. That's the best way to put it.
That's what we're going back to, I guess.
It's perfect. It's meeting a game. I always say that like people are, so I don't love the saying, things haven't aged well, because I think everything ages the same. It's like art. Like looking at a painting doesn't change for me 30 years from now, and even though my eyes are old and I'm old and all of me is old. But
imagine looking at a Van Gogh and being like, that didn't age well.
Yeah, that didn't age well.
What was he thinking?
The original Star Wars, like, look at these.
Don't get me started.
I will get you started because they aged great. Because everything ages great because it's the age of the thing. You just have to meet the thing at the time. You have to meet it in its time and place. And I think this is one of those games that is quintessentially 90s. And as long as you're okay meeting BattleTanx in the late 1990s, what more would you expect from a tank game in the 90s?
Like I think when people talk about like aged well or not when it comes to games, it's more just like the way it plays. Like, does it still play well from like say a modern perspective? Because there are some games that do. Like still to this day, it's like this still feels pretty good. But our perception of how games can be, has changed over the years, and then that's when games kind of tend to fall by the wayside. But I don't think like BattleTanx like aged poorly from a control perspective. You know what I mean?
For N64 standards, like especially like taking into account like the worn out analog sticks tend to sometimes make games a bit more finicky at times. I thought this one was perfectly good, like smooth enough. Like I never felt like the game was slippery or all over the place. Like I thought it was very good for the time.
I agree.
So yeah, that okays across the board.
You did it, BattleTanx. Good job.
They did what they set out to do.
It's
you battle some tanks.
It's actually pretty interesting because for 3DO post console, the games are such a like the scale of the games on post 3DO stuff is like it's like this literally, like they're all over the place. So
is this game going to be our litmus test for post console 3DO stuff? Like, is it going to be better or worse than BattleTanx?
Honestly, probably
It might
because
be our measuring
I mean,
stick.
so you can be really sad when a lot of games are worse than Battle.
yeah, you're going to be surprised.
Yeah, I've played some of them already. Oh boy.
I mean, we're eventually going to have to play like that weird war jets on PS2.
Oh
so,
God. Oh
yeah.
Jesus Christ. Just the name scares me. Oh, it has a Z. Oh
Yeah,
man.
it's like
man.
It's like BattleTanx. It's got that extreme lettering there.
Yeah.
An X is fine. A Z is too far, man.
The X makes it sound cool.
At least it's not 3X's like BMX XX.
Triple
3DO
X.
made that?
No, I don't
Might
think
as well
so.
have.
Yeah,
They probably would
Oh,
have done a better job, honestly.
collabed on the Guy game while they were at it.
Nah, don't.
No.
No, actually, fun fact here.
Those
Acclaim
games are
made-
connected, aren't they?
Yeah, there's nothing fun
Acclaim-
about this fact.
Acclaim made BMX Triple X. Acclaim
Yeah.
also made Turok. Turok was founded by the guy who made the Guy game. You know. So
Oh,
also
the guy
tie-
who found Retro Studios.
yeah, Jeff Spangenberg, because he founded Retro,
Spangenberg.
was
Jesus
instrumental in starting Metroid Prime before Nintendo fired him for making softcore porn on their computers. No, they didn't fire him. They paid him to fuck off. That's what happened.
Yeah, that's how that. This is America, baby.
And then he used the said Nintendo money to found Top Heavy Studios and make the Guy game. You can tie so much shit to the Guy game. It's kind of disturbing.
And he also programmed the Super Nintendo port of Side Pocket.
Oh, I love
He did.
Side Pocket. Oh,
I grew up
also
on the
made,
Genesis. I grew up on the Genesis version, so
Same.
fuck him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're Sega
Just-
boys over here.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Jeff Spangenberg's one of those like guys who was really brilliant back in his day, and then he just turned into a fucking degenerate over time. Or probably always was, and he just became more apparent the more powerful he
Yeah.
got.
He's just
You-
grums ahead of his time. You know, it's like-
I was gonna say you'd be surprised how many guys in like the tech world are just like this,
Yeah.
like skeevy as shit.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be
I know.
surprised.
I know.
Just talk to an IT help desk.
I'm just looking forward to when we talk about Portal Runner so we can talk about Trip Hawkins' like angry email.
Oh, that's gonna be great.
But yeah, so this was an interesting one. I'm looking forward to in the future talking more about like the post like console stuff because there's so much of it and it's like surprisingly diverse. That being said, though, before we talk about what we're going to play next, Mike, do you want to shout out what you do?
what is it that I do? I don't.
You create art
was
that
gonna say-
ages well.
That is not a rhetorical question. I have no idea what I do.
You brighten my day whenever I turn on that app that everyone's abandoning really fast.
Well, I'm also
So-
on the other app that everybody's flocking to, doing
yes,
the exact
yes.
same thing there. So
I just recently we actually just recently moved over there, so all the GNC shows are now on Blue Sky. So yay.
But yeah, I don't do a whole lot. This is kind of what I do is use my platform of whatever it is that I do to promote other people's stuff. But you guys have a great show. I've done shows with each of you individually somewhere in the network at some point, but never together. So really excited to come and talk about a not 3DO game on my favorite system. So you got me for at least 4 more episodes if you need me.
Yeah.
We
And
can't
fun
get you
fact-
for the Army Men games.
That's
Well-
3 of them.
Oh,
And the other one's BattleTanx Global Assault.
damn
Yep.
right.
Yep. We'll also have to figure that out because we're going to have the Remember 64 guys on for one of those. But
Yep, that's fine. I don't have to be on there. It's just an option
No, we got to get Quest and Remember 64 together. The 2 N64 guys.
that we've also never done a show together, though we have like been cited on the same episodes talking about the same stuff.
has Dave done Quest 64 yet? He must not have, because if he doesn't get you for that, that'll be a travesty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we got you because this is episode 64.
It is.
so
and it,
suck it, Dave. They went with the shit poster instead of the guy.
See, this is how we get him out of retirement.
Yeah.
He's not retired. He had a kid. Give him a break.
Oh, fuck off. We all have kids.
Yeah, I got a pile of kids, and I'm still here.
That's how he plays BattleTanx.
Yeah.
Shout out, to
Honey,
Dave
shoot
Miller.
out another
He's
kid. We need 4-player multiplayer.
I've got 3 kids. I don't need a 4th. We're good.
You have 3? I thought you had 2.
Yeah. No, I have 2 younger ones, and then I have a 19-year-old daughter. So
Oh shit.
that's the one. She's the reason that I am who I am now. She decided we dug Old Reliable, which is my wife's Nintendo 64, out of storage, and we played a bunch of games. And she's like, "I am like into this." And this was when she was maybe 10 or 12, somewhere in there. She's like, "We should get all the games." I'm like, "You're right," and we did.
Well,
'Cause
then
that's all it
chat-
takes to a retro collector, like a reason. Give me a reason. So
So, shout out to Quest, the old ass kid I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
That's why he's here right now.
yeah, that's why I talk about all the games and remind people that there's 18 RPGs, not 6.
You know my favorite part is,
Is that
every time
including the Japanese ones?
Yeah, of course.
Of
Dude,
course,
there's
yeah.
Sheeran the Wanderer. Everybody knows Sheeran. Everybody
My-
plays Sheeran.
my
Yeah.
favorite part about that is whenever I make the RPG joke, I always say a different number every time.
Oh, yeah.
I always,
And
I always say,
That's why I
either
have
say,
to think of a number
5
too, because I'm like, what are you going with for this show now?
I'm always like, oh, like 4. There's 5, 7.
Yeah.
I think I said 12 once.
It's one of
There's
one
64 of
3.
them.
Yeah,
I mean, some people only think there's like 1. So
yeah,
Ogre Battle.
no, that's too obscure for most people. Most
yeah.
people just
Paper
think, like,
Mario.
Paper
Oh
Mario.
yeah. Can't believe I forgot about that one.
I mean, if you want to get really specific, some people will say Flying Ninja or Flying Dragon, the fighting
Yeah.
game, is an RPG because it has RPG elements. But
No.
I don't even include that one, and that's saying something. So,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, Mr.
But,
Everything's an RPG.
did you listen to the Super Pod Saga where we argued about RPGs?
Yes, I did.
Dude, that's
Man, I wanted to jump in and argue.
I
with you
don't
on
know.
that.
I still think the best ever was the Gaming Together Mario Party 3 episode where Nate forgot to play the game.
oh yeah, that was a great episode.
That
I
was.
think that was the first time I was on a show with Bill.
Yeah.
I just
That's
remember
such,
because Nate's
that's
like,
such a knave thing to do.
Yeah.
Nate was like, I didn't play the game because of the fucking cover art. Because I'll give him credit, Mario Party 1 has a fucking 3 right next to the fucking
It's
title.
in a dice with a 3. It was 1 and 6 that they were going to make 6 games, and they went with 3. So
Yep. But that being said, next week, what should we play?
I don't fucking know. What do you want to play?
I was thinking we go into full motion video land again, and I was thinking maybe we do the Mad Dog games.
Ooh, is it time?
I think it is.
Were we going to get somebody else on for that?
I was gonna get Casey back because he really wants to talk about those.
And he's good?
I'm sure he is. I'll reach out to him and we'll figure it out.
But yes, I'm very excited to play the trilogy. Did all 3 of them come out on 3DO?
I know the first 2 definitely did. I'd have to check on the.
Okay,
Check
I'm gonna
on
play all 3 anyway, so don't worry.
Yeah, we'll probably just cover all 3.
because I got the Wii one. That's the
did
compilation.
3DO
also.
have Ground Zero Texas as
It did
well?
not. That was one of the.
No, I
ones
wish
that
it did. I love that game.
What a shame.
I know.
We
We
got
find out
Night-
what hole they dug you out of.
I also like that game.
I love that game when you fuck up. Sometimes he'll come and just punch you in the face, and then
Yeah,
that's game
so
over.
good. Yeah, people don't talk about that game enough.
Well, because like AVGN covered it for like 2 seconds in his like Sega
And
CD
he's like,
thing.
"Yeah, what hole they dug you out of? The hole in your ass."
Yeah, and then
Like,
most
that's a
people are
good
like,
line. That's a good line, but
You guys should be
showed
the
that-
only ones. You want to do that? I can come back for Ground Zero Texas.
yeah, if we ever just
let's
cover
do
a
it.
non.
When
Yeah,
you're
maybe
doing
it's
Sega
just-
CD games or whatever that came out on.
Honestly,
Yeah, it
that
was-
might
it was-
just be.
yeah, I think it was Sega CD, PC. It's on for some reason. It's on Steam and PS4. What the fuck? LRG.
Why not?
I
Probably
played it on
not.
Sega CD. So
I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll reach a point when we finish the 3DO library that we'll just start covering like random obscure games on different consoles.
No, it's how we morph into a Jaguar podcast.
Jaguar, or just
That's our
CDI.
eventual goal.
Basically, we just make it like the obscure console podcast where we just talk about random games from different obscure systems that no one cared about.
That's what we're here for.
But
I'm here for it. Love it.
nice.
Good job, guys.
On that
Thank
note,
you.
though, unfortunately, we're gonna have to cover Mike's face again for our ads. But
He doesn't want to be seen.
That being said, though, once again, guys, thank you for joining us on the 3DO Experience. You can find the 3DO Experience on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. And be sure to check us out over on the Superpod Network. That is superpodnetwork.com. You can find a whole bunch of awesome shows, different blogs, videos, a whole bunch of awesome stuff, including shows like Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, A Novel Console. He's finally back. Bar Silence, Fine
Maybe.
Time. We'll see. The Elder Trolls Gaming Podcast, Remember 64, Gaming Together, Friday Night Gamecast, the 3GNC shows, Gaming and Collecting, the 3DO Experience, Geek Addicts, and of course, the Retro Wildlands, and Press B to cancel. And are you streaming this week, Threk?
Potentially. I'm 50-50. If I do, it's going to be those like horror games that I wanted to do because I got the 2 indie horror games that I wanted to play.
Okay.
So if I do, it'll be those 2.
Okay. But yeah, the link's down below. That's twitch.tv/Threk94. If he's on, you'll see him there, and you can enjoy our chaos. I'm in the chat, the comment section.
Quest doesn't show up, you fucker.
But
You've never invited me. I'll come to Twitches. I just need to be invited. So.
Dude, I've asked you, and you sent me that that meme of I don't think I will.
That does sound like me. I'm on.
and I was slightly hurt.
I thought that's where we were working on our Nemesis arc at the time, though.
It's never going to end.
That being said, though, guys, once again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you all later.
Bye-bye.
If you're not playing on a 3DO system, what are you playing with?